There we go.
Hi. Hello, everyone. Russ, you look like something for it, though.
Yeah. So in this tech world that we're in, we have now learned that the Boston Red Sox used an Apple Watch to steal signs from the New York Yankees. And here's the thing. Like, we can go back to the 51 World Series with Bobby Thompson, and the Giants stole signs from the Dodgers out in the outfield with a telescope, right? Now, to me, that goes beyond gamesmanship. And if they knew anything about it in a day, I'm sure they would have done something about it. We only found out about this like maybe 10 years ago or even less than that. Now, with this Red Sox situation, what's disturbing about it is it was found on video. The video eventually made its way on the Apple Watch, and they steal the signs. I've heard all kinds of rationalizations from people that, feel like cheating's fine. Like, it's okay. It's just sports and all this stuff. But, again, I go back to, I don't have kids, right? So I could cheat every day of my life, and there's nobody that I'm hurting other than myself. But, like, for people with kids, I don't know how they justify it. And so at the end of the day, I look at this situation and I say, I don't know how Rob Manfred, the commissioner, isn't putting some sort of sanctions or something, fining the Red Sox something immediately, because he should be, because he's letting this slip. The Yankees took the high road, and I appreciate that. This is not to say other teams don't cheat, but I can tell you this. When I was in semi-pro baseball camp, and the guys on my team had noticed that a pitcher was digging into his glove, and that meant he was throwing a slide or a split finger, I was able to get a hit off that split finger because I knew. So if you don't think knowing signs from pitchers to catchers to what's a steal and what isn't valuable, it is. It's everything. And I'm hearing just ridiculous rationalizations about it, and I'm really mad about it.
Now, there's cheating, and there's cheating and trying to get edges in professional sports, and the old adage, if you're not cheating, you're not trying, and it's only cheating if you get caught. Michael Pineda from the Yankees, a pitcher, had, what was it, pine tar on his neck or on the bill of his cap. So everybody does it. But I think the problem is nowadays to use technology is, players that are on second base, they steal signs. That's part of the game. Manfred is right in that respect. If you can pick up on something just by your observation, there's no problem with that. It's the fact that you're using sort of artificial enhancements here. Watching the game on ESPN or watching a feed and getting the sign from the catcher. That's a little bit of chicanery here. So, everybody does it, but the Red Sox got caught, and them being from the same town as the notorious cheating New England Patriots, it just sort of goes it's sort of par for the course.
Eck, what do you think?
I'm with you. I wouldn't, first of all, Russ, on your point, I do think that it's definitely, there's no question an advantage to it. There's no question an advantage to knowing what's going on. So people who are saying that there's no advantage, that is totally ridiculous.
Yeah.
And cheating, but the whole thing of trying to cheating, you're right, is cheating will always exist, has always existed. They'll always find a new way. Now this is an extremely new way. I give them credit for that, for the ingenuity to figure it out.
But what if your kid got a copy of the test, put it on their Apple Watch, and gave it to everybody in class? Your kid got caught. Now you're going into the principal's office. What do you tell your kid? Hey, good idea, but sorry you got caught.
Yeah, no, exactly.
A former NHLer told me that back in the day when coaches would request the measure of the curve on the stick more commonly, that after they did it, no matter what way, whether it was legal or illegal, they would start to use an illegal stick that they had hidden, because the odds of somebody asking a second time for another measurement were astronomical. They felt safe basically to use that extra little curve.
Except I think Yager got caught more than once.
Yeah, well, but everybody remembers the McSorley thing in the '93 final. Yeah. Gretzky or whoever could use an illegal curve at that point, because probably the Canadians and Jacques Demers wouldn't have requested it. But yeah, so I don't know. The funny thing is, it's commonplace now. We sort of like block it out now. when a catcher goes to the mound, the pitcher's always putting the glove to his face. The reason is because they had lip readers reading what they were saying.
Right.
So everybody is looking for an edge. Everyone.
But this goes beyond an edge.
It does go beyond an edge, but that's always been the case, right? And that's always
an advantage.
Yeah.
So you know what? If I'm Major League Baseball, you've got to hand in everything electronic before you play the game. You can't have anything with you on the bench. It all has to be locked up in a locker room. No Apple Watches, no phones. Those things shouldn't be out in the playing area anyhow.
Yep, agreed.
I don't disagree with that. I think that there's no reason to have.
I mean, think about this, Zach. They have stupid bullpen phones. Like with technology the way it is, why do they even have a bullpen?
Why do they even have those bullpen phones? I love the bullpen phones. Bullpen phones are awesome. It's like the phone I have here. Yeah,
right.
Here that I use for my.
Fans are not allowed to bring in certain things into the games, because they don't want pictures taken or things of that nature. So the opposite is the players shouldn't be allowed to bring in things that would give them an advantage.
And coaches.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you just all your research should be done ahead of time, just like it normally is. You shouldn't be able to Google a player's hitting tendencies or something like that. On the bench, you should have to do that. I'm with you. I think that all electronic devices should be banned, or they could do that whole thing where they have the what is that, Mike?
That is the stage last night of the U2 concert, the Joshua Tree.
Yeah. So those little orbs is one of them Bono?
Yeah. They were about this big. I was in the upper deck. Hey, it was the best $35 I've ever spent on a concert.
You've never been to Vegas? Oh, on a concert. Sorry. All right, yeah.
Jeez, I'll tell you, it was hilarious. Just out of curiosity, I went on to StubHub about 15 minutes before Beck was the opening act when he went on stage, and tickets were on StubHub for $6 in the section that I was sitting in.
But how do you get the $6 tickets? Because you can't print it at home. They're not all going to be electronic transfer, and you've got to get down there pretty quickly.
No, it's the app. You have the scan on the
StubHub app. Yeah, StubHub.
Yeah, so. But is every ticket available that way? Because I found some that I didn't think were. Okay.
I'm pretty sure that everyone is. I mean, I went to go see a Blue Jays game.
I've certainly scanned tickets like I did my last show, but I didn't know they were all available that way. I thought it was depending on who you were and how you chose to get them originally.
Right.
Yeah.
But still, you got to get down there quickly, Mike. Like Beck's playing, how much time was in between Beck and U2?
Oh, believe me, that was a little bit of a controversy because he started at about, I would say, 7:45 to 8 o'clock, and he went on for 45 minutes, and U2 did not go on stage until 9:40.
Oh, okay. So you had a lot of time. You literally had 2 hours. Okay.
They played a while too, I'm sure.
But I have to say, with the exception of the expected Bono political preaching, which I was fully prepared for, it was an incredible concert, and I wish I would have seen them back in the 80s and the 90s. But they haven't lost anything off their fastball. They're still a great band. It was a great concert.
In the 90s, I know. Yeah. I really think that's probably true.
You broke up. You broke up there for a second.
Oh, sorry. I think they're probably just as good as they were back then.
Yeah, I mean, his Bono's voice, he's lost a couple octaves, but I mean, the songs are not. It's not like going to see Genesis in 2009 where you couldn't recognize the songs because they were in such a lower key.
Mm-hmm.
That's such phony. I've got recordings.
I do too.
No, this is your this is your failed memory on that.
Yeah, no. Let's start the show.
Let's start up the show, should we? Shall we? All right, here we go. We'll fight about this later. Hockey World, it's Wednesday, September 6th, 2017.
I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I am Eklund, and watching the HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast comes every Monday through Friday at this time to fill you in on the comings and goings in the hockey world, and putting our thoughts and prayers out to everybody still in Houston and people in Florida who are afraid of the oncoming Hurricane Irma. Wow, this is quite a double hit here. This is the biggest hurricane ever, I guess now, or something like that.
I do have one quickie story. A lot of people don't realize there's a town in Texas with no water, Beaumont, Texas. They have no water. Nobody talks about it. Nobody's, like everybody's just going about their business. This town is without water, right? And it's a pretty horrible thing to happen. Just ask the people in Flint. But I have to tip my hat to the people at Coca-Cola, because apparently there was a plant there that hadn't been used in many, many years. And a guy who was doing, and again, this is something that really, I won't get too much into detail, but when people have to do their own rescues, it really bothers me that they're using their own crafts and everything else and whatever. But it's amazing that they do. This guy with a hovercraft went in the water, went past that Coca-Cola after he was doing rescues, had a saw and a few other things, broke in with Coca-Cola's blessing, and got in like tens of thousands of bottles of like Coke, Fanta, and everything else. And since that stuff doesn't go bad, hey, at least people can drink that. And so that's something.
That is something. That's great.
Yeah.
Just watch out for the diabetes spread.
Well, at that point you can't worry about it.
I know. That's a great. And I have to tip my hat to JJ Watt with his GoFundMe, where he was expecting to get like $1 million, and I think it's up to 20 million now. So that's an amazing thing that he did.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's an incredible. All right, so let's take let's talk a couple things here. I wanted to start with a lot of things being stuck to me at once. First of all, this is kind of breaking. I've been, probably for my distraction in the beginning of the show here, I have been hearing about Matt Duchene and the possibility of him not showing up for camp. And it's a little surprising, but then again, not. For Matt Duchene not show up to camp, things have to be pretty damn bad. I want to throw that out there. He's not the kind of guy who would do this. If there are some people who would make a statement out of this for just the hell of it. This is definitely the case where, this is what I feel that is happening here. As you guys know, most agents, or maybe you don't know, you guys on the show would know, I think, but most out there might not know that agents are very much involved in trades. Okay, they play in quite often. Say Matt Duchene's talking to the Blue Jackets, or Sackett's talking to the Blue Jackets. Before that happens, sometimes the agent will go to the Blue Jackets and say, "Hey, Matt would like to play there. What can you guys put together?" And they would put together a deal to go to the agent. The agent, well, we might be able to do this and this and this, and then he would go back to the Avalanche and talk to Sakic. And this kind of stuff happens all the time before the deals actually get made. And it's just a way, because it behooves the agent to make his player happy. He wants to move his player to a new place. And get him to a situation that's where he can perform better, and the team likes it because it helps them, helps cut down their having to call around and talk to everybody. So agents play a big role in trades. My suspicion here is that Duchene's agent has seen some pretty damn good deals turned down by Joe Sakic. that he has a sense of that if you're not going to trade me for that, then you're probably not going to trade me at all, and then we got to re-talk about this. That's my guess on why to me, if I was knowing Duchene as I do a little bit, it would take that kind of a situation for him to be that upset to not show up to camp.
Well, okay. We're getting the echo here. Hold on.
I'm not hearing it. Sorry. There's Mike.
That's always Mike.
Yeah, I can't hear the echo, so it's probably me. Are you hearing the echo, Russ?
No echo.
All right. So
I think, I don't hear it now.
Mike, you were saying
it's me. It's not me. Okay.
No. Sometimes it just comes. So anyway, the Duchene situation. I mean, essentially, apparently Sakic has not come off his stance of the usual package when it comes to a star player. It's the first round pick, top prospect, and an NHL player. And Pierre Maguire was on one of the TSN radio stations this morning, and he said that the Islanders have been focusing on Duchene since the expansion draft, and that the trade of Travis Hamonic to Calgary pretty much ended any possibility of that deal happening, because Hamonic was possibly the centerpiece in that deal. Now, I don't know if that's the truth, because Hamonic is a little old. He's not an old player, but he's in his mid-20s, and I think that with the conservative and fiscally responsible Colorado Avalanche, they probably want a couple players on entry-level deals and not a player who's making significant money, even if he signed long-term. They're just, teams are not giving up top prospects. You cannot go to the Boston Bruins if the Boston Bruins were for Matt Duchene and say, I want Charlie McAvoy. Don Sweeney's going to laugh his ass off. It's not happening. So that's
you know what's happening. A lot of this is turning into the NFL, even though the NFL has a different kind of salary cap. It's turning into that because like teams are basically just waiting, right? Like with Zadorov as an example. He's still not signed.
Right.
He's not going to the KHL. At some point, they're waiting till these prices hit rock bottom, for a lack of a better phrase. And that's what these teams are doing. So I don't think Colorado's ever getting what they want for Matt Duchene anymore. That's gone. I think most teams that were giving those offers gave them last season. Yeah. I think this season they're diminished, and I also think the same for Zadorov. And I think Colorado has really hurt themselves here.
Well, with Zadorov, I mean, he's an unknown commodity, so I don't think that.
Yeah, but he's still, it's like anything else. If I give you this card and say, look, I've got a Nick Ehlers card here, you know what that's worth, right? But if I put this card and I put it into a paper bag and say, you've got a chance at pulling a Connor McDavid, no offense to Nick Ehlers, now all of a sudden the value's gone up, right?
Right. I'm just saying. Zadorov is an unknown.
You like that? I thought that was good.
I like that.
Okay.
Zadorov is an unknown commodity here, where I think Duchene is a pretty known commodity. But the problem is Joe Sakic has overplayed his hand. He may have gotten deals that were close to what he wanted, but as we've said on the show before, when we previewed the Avalanche before, is that he got so burned, and that organization got so burned on the Ryan O'Reilly trade that now they have to hit a grand slam home run, walk off to win the World Series to make the deal palatable. And that's not going to happen. You're not in a strong negotiating position here. Duchene doesn't want to be there. He's got 2 years left in his contract. He's making $6 million. There are teams out there that want him, but you're not going to get a team's top 2 prospects and a first-round pick for a guy who doesn't want to be there. Get what you can and make the deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I have a theory. I mean, I've talked to people before. They always say that the original deal that was turned down, it sometimes it can be had still. Like there's a theory, that
yeah, we've seen that.
If Sakic goes back to him and says, listen, that deal you made me before, I'm in a situation now where he's not going to show up to camp. I got to make this move.
But this late in the season, before camp starts, this late in the summer, I should say, before camp starts, it's harder to make that deal now because
it's a lot harder to make that deal if the team, especially if the team's up against the cap.
Right.
Like that.
Cap things have already been,
Yeah, I mean, there are some teams like Columbus, Nashville, 2 of the teams that were interested before Buffalo.
Yeah, and
they're not right there on the cap.
I don't think Columbus could even maneuver it now.
Not sure. I think they. I mean,
they could. I mean, the
not to make it match up. It's got to match up, though, right? Like they're pretty close to the cap.
Kind of sort of match up, and then Colorado can always take something, but I mean, not that
they're not taking money. I think we're pretty clear on that.
Yeah, I mean, that's not likely at all, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Duchene's a $6 million cap hit, and we know that, I mean, the rumors involving Columbus have involved names like Ryan Murray, and Ryan Murray's making less than half of what Duchene's making, so there would have to be some sort of, balance in the deal to make it work. But I don't know. I don't get where Colorado's coming from. You've got a situation here where I don't think it's going to get any better. I don't think you're going to get more for Duchene down the line. I think it's going to continue to fester. And if he holds out, then I think all bets are off, because if he holds out, then I think they lose more leverage. And so maybe Sakic's feet are being held to the fire now, and he's just got to take that best offer that he can get, based on the fact that Duchene may not show up next week when they open training camp.
I mean, again, I'm not blaming all this on Joe Sakic anyhow, because there's an owner. We don't know how the owner feels. We never hear from the owner. So Joe's the guy the only one we could potentially hear from. And that sort of, makes it tougher on him.
Yeah, I do agree with that. And and I think that this is really it's been a bad situation that just continues to spiral. And to me, that's the problem with it. Like if it was my organization or it was I would just at some point say, listen, we're going to take what we can take out of this and move forward because it's affecting everything else in a bad way. And
there's another problem with that. Selling that to the fan base now is a hard sell.
Oh, yeah, no, it's a really hard sell. You have to somehow, but there are ways around that too. Like you can.
Yeah, but here's the thing.
Yeah.
So let's say they do trade him, right? And they get what they can get for him, and they have another bad season. Well, the fans are going to go back and say, you got nothing for Duchesne. They're going to say that for years.
I mean, yes. Remember what area we're talking about here. We're talking about back in the late 70s when the Kansas City Scouts moved to Denver, and it was the Colorado Rockies.
Well, those people are dead, Mike. But anyhow,
I know, but that franchise struggled because they were terrible, and then they ended up moving to New Jersey, and then in 19, I think it was 95, 94, 95.
95 sounds right.
95, 96. They moved from Quebec. The Nordiques moved from Quebec to Colorado with a team ready-made to win, with Patrick Waugh, with Sakic, with Olin Nolan, and that franchise rode that wave for what? Over a decade.
Yeah,
it was a quality franchise for over a decade. Now we're getting back in terms of the way that franchise is being run, the way the Colorado Rockies were run. And if you continue to do this, the fan base will tune out. They'll focus on the Broncos, they'll focus on other things, and they won't focus on the Avalanche. So that's the challenge here. They've got to get, if they have to trade Duchesne, which it appears to me that they have to get value. But at a certain point, you just have to make the move. You just have to make the move.
You have to move forward. You do. You have to move. You have to find a way of moving forward. That's really the bottom line. And you have to sell that to your fan base somehow. And I think they need it. If I was them, I would have done, would have gone really hard for one of these other players that are troubled, like that. That's what I kept thinking they should have done that, because that's usually the best way to do it, because you have a situation like, okay, you go after
like Jacob Trouba.
Yeah, like Jacob Trouba or something along those lines. I mean, but don't try to be ridiculous. Don't be like Jacob Trouba and a first round draft pick and a prospect, just like that. Just be like.
But that's what he's doing.
I know. That's why I'm saying, to be honest, just go like, we want Jacob Trouba.
Here's the thing, though.
We want Trouba for Matt Duchesne. Just say that straight up, and then that's the situation that Winnipeg suddenly looking at the fact that Trouba doesn't want to stay there in all likelihood.
No, but because of the kind of team that they are right now. And they're not a team that's forking over big salaries. They're not taking Trouba unless they have a really great indication that he's going to sign long term with them.
Well, yeah, they could figure that out. I mean, I could talk to him, and I bet Trouba would sign long term with them.
But the thing is, remember where Duchesne is. Duchesne was the same draft class as John Tavares and Nazem Kadri. So we're talking he's 26 or 27 years old. He's got 2 years left in his contract. So any team that he gets traded to, they can't sign him to an extension, because you can't sign a player until the last year of his contract. So you can't extend him. And if he has a big year, the player's not going to want to sign an extension because he's going to want to go free agent. So that mitigates the value that a team is going to want to give up for Matt Duchesne, because you might be trading for a 2-year rental.
No, I agree. But that's why you're looking. That's why I'm saying what I'm saying. I'm saying, okay, that Trouba's in the same, these unknowns, these the same kind of question marks around him. That you can't. I mean, they could sign him to an extension now, but they can't. They haven't been able to, and it doesn't look like they're going to. So, I mean, to me, that you might as well get Duchesne in there for 2 years, see if you can prove to him that you're a worthy place to be. I mean, it's an exciting. I mean, there's some exciting stuff happening in that city. Yeah, I don't see it as and there's that team looks like they could be a force. I mean, give them a chance. Give them a chance to see what happens. That's all you can ask for, is a chance, right? So, I mean, to me, they go for that, and that's the end of the day. That's how you can save face, at least if you're Colorado. You can't get 3 players for him, but you can get one pretty damn good player for him that you can really say, okay, this is like. I mean, and at the end of the day, you can sit back and say, hey, Taylor Hall was traded for Larson. I think that was crazy.
I think you could get one good player and a first-round pick, and that would be something
maybe they could get that great. But you got to change the way you're looking at things. You got to change the way you're.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Right now, they're just not focused on the wrong kinds of things.
Now, they're in other center contract talk.
Yep.
There were some reports this morning that Bo Horvat is close to signing the extension with the Canucks. And from the numbers, I think it was Bob McKenzie who reported it, the numbers are around $5 million per on a 6 or 7 year deal. And that's
6 on a 7-year deal. So
okay. I mean, if it's 6, then I think it's a little less of a good deal than I thought it was. But I was thinking with Horvat, with the contract that Wenberg just signed, which was 4.9, that Horvat, I think they're pretty comparable. I would say that around $5 million is a really good deal. 6 is a little pricey for a guy at this point in Horvat's career. What do you think, Russ?
I like Horvat. I think I'd pay him that money because of everything that he does give you all around. Like, I think, again, there's always a lot of focus on Vancouver, like what prospects aren't making it and who's old and why are we rebuilding. And like Bo Horvat's quietly having really terrific seasons. Like he had 20 goals and 52 points on a team that in the second half of the season wasn't very good. And the year before he had 16 goals. Like he wins faceoffs, he plays defense.
Yeah.
Like this is the kind of guy you want to build around. And I loved him going into the draft. And I just, I look at it and I say, give him the $6 million. The funny thing is that you can make the argument that, again, this goes back to the Pasternak deal. Why is Pasternak worth more than Bo Horvat? Just because he scored more goals?
Yeah.
Is that really the only reason?
Well, yeah.
But there's more to hockey than that. That's my whole point.
Well, I mean,
there's not more to contracts than that sometimes.
I know.
I mean, Russ, it's the fact that Pasternak scored he scored 34 goals. He had even more assists. He was arguably their best player last year, and that's on a team that had has one of the best two-way centers in Bergeron, and Marchand had a career year.
Yeah.
I mean, Pasternak is and he's only 21 years old, and he's played since he was 18 in the NHL. So I mean, those are factors where he thinks he deserves to be paid at the level of. Now he's not even comparing himself to Tarasenko. His agent is shooting for what Draisaitl got, and we know that he's probably not going to get that from the Bruins. But I think they're sort of aiming high and hoping that they can reach some sort of compromise. But the thing is with Horvat is a number 2 center. He's a really good one. I don't think he's a number 1 when I
don't think Pasternak's a number 1 either. I think he's just a guy that has a lot of points, and I like him as a player, but I don't think he's a number 1.
Well, he's a number 1 winger.
I don't know about that.
You don't think he's a top line right winger?
I'm not sure about that. I would question that.
Well, I mean, the only way he proves that is having another year like he had last year. But he's at a crossroads when it comes to his contract, and said you have to pay him based on what he produced last year, and what he produced was 34 goals and 36 assists, which is not bad.
Yeah, 30 goals.
Yeah, think about this. Horvat had 15 even strength goals, which is a ton. If we look up Pasternak, did he even have 15 even strength goals?
I'll check.
I don't know.
I'll check.
And then if we also look at, because I look at other things as a player's overall worth. His average ice time last year was 18:02.
Yeah, I saw that.
For a 21-year-old. Think about the amount of ice time that he was getting as a 21-year-old. And again, on a team with limited scoring where they knew he was going to be the guy. He's over 50%.
Like Draisaitl is at 18.9. I mean, there are players that like Nugent Hopkins is at 17.7. I was looking at Edmonton. So the amount of ice time he's getting is right up there with definitely first-line players.
Yeah, and he's over 50% every year on faceoffs. He gets right around 70 hits a year. So, again, this is a guy who does a lot more than just score, where if I look at Pasternak
had 34 goals, 10 on the power play, so 24
okay.
were 5-on-5 or empty net.
Okay. And that is a great number. But again, I like the overall worth of Bo Horvat. I do.
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting he's better than Pasternak. I'm just suggesting that if he gets 6, Pasternak, to me, I wouldn't pay much more.
Yeah, but Yeah, but the thing is that, again, we know that teams are going to pay differently based on position. Pasternak is a winger; he's a top line winger, and Horvat, I think, even with the departure of the Sedins at next year, if they do leave, Horvat is a number. He'll be I'd say, below average number one center and a really good number two. So they're trying to slot him in as a number two center in terms of salary.
I don't know. I think by the age of 22, which is next, this year's 22, by the age of 23, he might be okay in that number one spot. I mean, he is really well built. I don't think he's going to get pushed off the puck. And if his faceoffs get just a little bit better, it's possible he could slot that way.
Yeah, true. We got to move on to the Edmonton Oilers because we're running out of time today. And I want to talk about Edmonton for a bit here. So we're gonna get into our preview on the Edmonton Oilers today. Let me go through a little bit of the orange, blue, and white. By the way, the coolest color combination in the NHL. Just throwing that out there. The Oilers are by far, in my book, the coolest color combination in the league. I've always liked the uniforms, and I'm glad they went back to their old ones. This is a team that finished second in the Pacific Division last year and, played a really strong playoff, had a strong playoff only to fall to Anaheim in what was an incredible series, actually. Mm-hmm. But they took out San Jose in the first round, and that was impressive, remembering that San Jose was the Stanley Cup finalist the year before. They played great hockey throughout the year. They had a huge year, of course. It was basically the Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl show, and Draisaitl separated himself from everybody else. Mm-hmm. They were a goal per game last year. They had 3.01, which placed them at 8th in the league. I think most people probably would think they're higher than that, but they're only 8th in the league in goal scoring. Goals against per game, also 8th at 2.59. Power play percentage, 5th, which was strong for them. Penalty killing, though, 17th. This is a team that has had goaltending issues, but definitely didn't have them last year because Cam Talbot had a great year, played a ton for them, and the backup situation is something that we'll definitely talk about because Talbot can only play so much. He's not going to be able to play 70 games. And the interesting thing to me, age-wise, this team, their 20-man rosters averages around 26 years old. So they're a young team. 26 is really young. And as opposed to yesterday when I talked about Chicago having all those guys with under $1 million contracts, the Oilers, even though they're not in cap trouble, even with the big Connor McDavid signing, they only have 4 guys really in their starting 18 under $1 million per contract. They've got some guys just above that, but not, they have some money spent around this team to sort of give them balance and depth. So I like what they've done there. Acquisitions in the offseason. Ryan Strome, of course, came over for Jordan Eberle in the big trade. And they're slotting in as maybe their third line center, perhaps, depending on how you look at it. But that's sort of how I was looking at it. Although, and then we also have, some young players on this team that are making big impacts, like, Anton Slepchev, who I can never say his name, but he had a big year last year. Has been basically, playing on their third, second line at times. And this year, of course, we'll be looking to see if Jesse Puljujärvi, at almost 20 years old, if he's going to actually show up this year and be impressive for them. They had a big injury with Andrew Sekera, who I think is
it was an ACL injury. I don't think he's going to start the season.
No, he won't.
Yeah, he's out till December. Okay, there we go. So they really did this. So they didn't sign that many players. They also the other kind of sneaky move they made was UC Jokinen, who is sneaky in terms of the fact that he's a bit of a disturber. He can get in there and cause trouble, but he also is an incredible shootout player, and that is a big factor and could be a big factor in the Western Conference this year. So I kind of give him some credit for that slick move. You're going to play on the third or fourth line, of course, but he's going to be a factor. Klefbom and Larson, are basically their top pairing, and they brought back Russell as well, right? They signed Russell for the extension. So that was a long time ago. And Darnell Nurse's return is huge for them. He missed all last year. I think he's probably their best defenseman, honestly, but he was out so much last year. It's going to be interesting to see how things play out from here. But go ahead, Mike.
Well, the Oilers are not in cap trouble now this year, but McDavid's contract kicks in next year.
Right.
Then they only have 11 players signed and they have $55 million spent. So they have a window, which might contribute to them making some short-term rental type deals and trying to make a run for it. Yeah. They needed to move out Eberle's $6 million salary. They weren't getting the best bang for the buck there. And maybe Ryan Strome, who I've always been a fan of, maybe he can get a resurgence in Edmonton, possibly playing on McDavid's wing. I mean, there's no doubting the talent there. I mean, McDavid and Draisaitl at the middle 1-2. I think that Nugent Hopkins is a luxury as a third-line center, and I've said before, I think Nugent Hopkins eventually will be traded by the Oilers. And I don't know about the Lucic deal going into year 2. He had a decent year, but we're talking about a guy who's approaching 30, slowing down, and in a year or two, that deal might be an albatross. Defensively, I like Nurse. I don't think he's ever going to be a big point producer in the NHL, but he's big, he's mobile, and I think he can be an effective, say, maybe second pairing shutdown guy. But I still don't think their defense is that good. They wasted money on Chris Russell. They spent $4 million on Chris Russell. I think it was a bad deal. Klefbom had a breakout year last year. Larson had a pretty good year, but I think they're lacking a number one defenseman, and Sekera, even if he's healthy, is not that. So I think they're still wanting on the blue line. I think they have a really good young bunch of forwards, and Cam Talbot cannot play 70 games. And to your point, Ak, Puljujarvi could be like Draisaitl in the sense that he played a bunch of games. They sent him down, and it was too early for him. But with that experience, maybe this year, maybe playing on the line with McDavid, maybe playing on a line with Draisaitl, he will produce and give them another scoring option. But to me, there's not much past that top 6 group. But there's Jokinen, but there's not a lot of depth at forward in that organization.
I'll say this. I wasted money once on a jar of Nutella. I want to admit that. It's good after the first, like you spread it out once, it's great. You eat it a second time, it's okay. And then after that, it's like, why did I buy this jar of Nutella? All right. Anyhow, moving on. I like the team. I think their defense is average to slightly above average if everything goes well, which is good. I think the goaltending is in a good spot, but not a great spot because of what X sort of led into. Because I like Brosant, but I don't know, because he's a bigger guy, he hasn't fully developed into what you would call a solid backup yet. And the monster just at times is not solid, right? Jonas Gustafsson. So he's on the roster too. Was he going to get any?
Huh? I think he's gone. Is he
gone? Okay, yeah. I saw him on the roster still.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's gone. So it's Brosant. And so that's a little bit weak. I think the scoring will be okay, but they definitely need to get more scoring in the playoffs. There's no question about it. I think Nugent Hopkins, if he's going to be there, he has to produce more somehow, and that's going to be on Todd McClellan, which, by the way, I just wrote an article about Colt Noor on Sportsology. Todd McClellan was his first coach in Swift Current, and Colt Noor has more career goals than Todd McClellan. That's a little-known fact.
There we go.
But getting back to it, I like this team. I am not picking them to go to the Stanley Cup. I don't want to have a spoiler alert here, but I think they'll be very similar to last year, but I think the Flames are pushing them big time. Flames only missed out on jumping them in second place by 5 points, and now the Flames have goaltending.
Yeah, honestly, I don't understand and don't get me wrong. I mean, I think Connor McDavid is the second best player in the league right now at age 20. I think he's a phenomenal talent. I'm not slagging him whatsoever. And I think Draisaitl is a very good player. I don't get the Stanley Cup predictions for Edmonton because this is simply not a complete team. Right. Their defense, we know that Klefbom and Larson last year were better than most people expected. But you're talking about going into the season now without a guy who was supposed to be a big point producer on your blue line in Sekera. And Chris Russell is a shot blocker, and we know that shot blockers.
That's why they got him. I think they needed to get him. I disagree with you on Chris Russell completely.
No, but they had him last year, Ak, and I'm not saying he's not I'm not saying he's not a solidifying force, but you don't pay $4 million to a shot blocker who scores 25 points. That's just bad. That's just bad money management by Peter Chiarelli.
You do when you're Edmonton, because Edmonton they need to protect their goalie. They need to protect their team. They need I think more than anything else, Russell actually brought them some sandpaper into the experience too. Like, he actually is something that Edmonton never. The reason they gave him so much money is they realized is how much, because they appreciated how much they got him. Like, because before him, they didn't have a Chris Russell on their team, and they need him on that team. And I think it showed in a lot of intangible ways. I thought it was a valuable trade. I mean,
well, he was the NHL shot blocking leader last year.
Yeah,
that's impressive. I mean,
and that is an important thing. The thing that still kills me is, for all the Erik Karlsson bashers, he was second in the league in shot blocking.
No, that shouldn't be any Erik Karlsson bashers in my opinion.
well, I mean, but
Not anymore, but there were.
Chris Russell got signed for 4 years at $4 million, and the second biggest free agent in this class on defense, which Carl Alsner, is making less than $5 million. Carl Alsner is a few years younger and a lot better of a defenseman.
Yeah, but it's a perfect storm for Russell, like it is, because they did need him
better offensively. I don't know if he's better defensively than Russell.
I think they're about the same defensively. And
I think it's comparable.
Yeah,
maybe. Yeah, and I agree. But Edmonton had him. He wants to play there. There's a lot of other things you have to take into account. With the Edmonton. I mean, he likes it there. Remember, Chris Russell was last year's Cody Franzen. That no one signed him for the whole thing, and he ended up signing in Edmonton and then proving himself in Edmonton. And now I was happy for him, because I mean, he went through hell last year waiting to get signed.
Yeah, I have nothing against him. I mean,
I think you do, Mike.
No. If he can get a contract, if he can get a 4-year contract, God bless him. I just don't think he's worth what he signed for.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm just kidding. Here's an interesting fact. Yesterday, I said about the Chicago Blackhawks that they had of their 20, roughly what's estimated to be their starting 20 players, they had 9 Americans on that team. Okay, nine Americans on the Chicago Blackhawks. How many Americans can you guess now without looking? How many Americans are on the Edmonton Oilers starting out? Puyarvi's not. I'm not putting Puyarvi in there, but it doesn't matter because he's not American. How many Americans are on what's projected as the starting 20 for the Edmonton Oilers?
Isn't Patrick Maroon an American?
Yes, he is.
I think he's the only one.
That would be it.
Yeah.
One American.
Yeah.
I don't think any other team has only one American. And here's the other thing. If they're starting 20, 15 Canadians. This is a team. We talked about somebody that last week. I forget who it was that had hardly any Canadians on them. It was Detroit, right? This is a team that is so dominated by the Canadians.
Well, the head of the organization is the former head of Hockey Canada. I don't know if that's
and a great guy who I once sat down for a long dinner in Montreal with Kevin Allen and Bob Nicholson one time, and that was one of the most fascinating dinners I've ever had. Right after one of I guess it was the All-Star game in Montreal, and it was really fascinating to hear. It's such an interesting guy, an actual Hockey Buzz fan, which is cool to know.
That's cool.
But Bob Nicholson is really he at that point was with Hockey Canada, and he has definitely brought the Hockey Canada influence to this team of Canadians who like to, what is interesting about the other thing that someone brought up to me, which I thought was really fascinating. If you were to take where people grew up, if you took the average temperature of where people grew up, this Oilers team probably grew up in the lowest average temperature per player on the team.
Well, that's because you're counting it in Celsius and not Fahrenheit.
No. But beyond that, Draisaitl grew up in a very mountainous section of Germany. Jokinen, Finland, right? Puyarvi, Finland, Lindbaum and Larson, Sweden. So you're talking about people who are all like, Edmonton's not such a big deal to live in Edmonton.
Yeah, it's balmy in Germany, right? Leon Draisaitl?
But not where he is.
Well, let's make our predictions for the.
All right, before we do our predictions, one quick thing, and then we'll definitely do our predictions. I want to know from you guys, because my blog today is who is better right now in the Battle of Alberta, Calgary or Edmonton?
I think it's Calgary.
I think it's Calgary by a slight bit.
By a margin.
By a slight margin. The only reason I think that is because I think Mike Smith is a significant upgrade on their goaltending from last year. Yep. And if Mike Smith was there last year, I think they would have probably beaten Edmonton in the standings in the Pacific Division.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't think so. I still got that. I'm going with
only a 5-point difference.
It's only a 5-point difference, but I think Edmonton can be better than they were last year too. I think that the playoffs were a good thing for them last year.
I think Calgary can be better next year. Calgary arguably has the best top 5 defense in the NHL.
Right.
No, that's true. And it's fascinating because, going back on the Battle of Alberta, it was always, Edmonton's offense, Calgary's defense, and that pretty much did play out. I mean, Calgary back in the day was also a flying offensive team as everybody was in the 80s, but they also had the defense. They also had the Joel Ottos, and I think of I think of Kachuk in a lot of ways, I think of Otto, where you have these hard-nosed guys who are going to be in there, to give the Edmonton superstars fits. It's shaping up to be a really fascinating Battle of Alberta for quite a few years to come, and we had a long time away from it. I was trying to remember my favorite Battle of Alberta moments, by the way, today, and there's some good ones. I mean, obviously the first one that comes to mind is the Steve Smith goal, right, which is something that became synonymous with own goals throughout hockey.
Yeah, I hated that. I really did.
Yeah, that was crazy. I remember Gretzky scoring in '88 in overtime to knock the Flames out of the playoffs on the way to winning the cup. That was something. And then, there were others too, but, those are the two that really, but just in general, some great playoff series. Calgary was a good team back then, and they should have had a lot more success, but they always ran into, in similar ways to what Washington's doing with Pittsburgh. To me, this is the same kind of thing. Like Washington's running into Pittsburgh every year, but they can't get by them. Calgary was like that with Edmonton. And what's crazy about that era is actually Winnipeg was really good too, but they couldn't get past Calgary or Edmonton. So it's like,
well, there was only one year, I'm fairly sure it was 1990, when Winnipeg was up 3-1 on Edmonton in the first round or second round of the playoffs, and Edmonton came back from 3-1 and won the series in 7 games. So
yeah, I remember that. Yeah, so it was a fun time. So I think this is going to be. I think it's going to be a good Edmonton team. But prediction wise, are they a playoff team?
Yes.
Yes,
they're a playoff team. Where did they finish?
I think they finished where they finished last year. I think they finished second in the Pacific. I think that. Well, no. I think they'll finish third in the Pacific behind Anaheim and Calgary. I think they'll either lose in the first or second round. I'll say lose in the first round. They play Calgary in the first round. I think Calgary's going to beat them.
I think third in the Pacific, lose in the second round again.
So they would beat Calgary in the first round in Russ's head.
Yes.
Because you're saying Calgary's better than them, so I'm assuming you're putting Calgary at second.
Yeah, Calgary. Well, see, that's a tough one, but
that's why I said they're going to lose in the first round.
I know. It's a tough one. I mean, I think Calgary will beat them in the regular season.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give Edmonton the slight edge in the playoffs, but we'll see.
Just as a fun little trivia, can you name the assistant general manager of the Edmonton Oilers? I did not know this until I did the research today, and I should have known it. Obviously, Edmonton fans are going to be pissed off at me because this is pretty.
Is it Maxwell Smart?
No,
it's not.
Pretty famous name in Edmonton.
Charlie Hodge.
Keith Gretzky is the assistant general manager.
Gretzky. I didn't realize he made it that high.
Manager of the Edmonton Oilers.
We've had Keith on our show on XM a bunch of times, and he is a pretty smart guy, and he sounds exactly like Wayne too. He
does. I know. Before we go, last thing I want to show you guys. We are, as you may have noticed, there's a new design on the website today. It's kind of cool. We have new.
Oh yeah, I noticed. Yeah.
T-shirts coming out for the HockeyBuzzcast, and I will have some print up tomorrow. Here we go. So let me show. I want to show you a picture. I'm just
to let the audience know, he hasn't even asked us our shirt sizes, but whatever. He cares more about you than the people.
That's for sure. Yeah. If you guys support the show, you'll get you'll get a T-shirt. Just
Mike and I don't really support the show.
I know you really don't.
We don't. We just are the show.
That's right. Just saying. So that's the thing. You got to support the show first.
We don't support it. We constitute the show.
You only do the show every day.
Right.
For $5, or more a month, you can get these T-shirts. And if you're a member now, and you've been helping us out, we really appreciate that incredibly. So here's an example of one of them. Which brings up now. This is a white one. There's a white one and a black one. Here's the white one. I like it. It took a while to come up with a logo, and I really like the logo that was sent to me by a listener up in Quebec.
If we're pretending to look at, okay.
Here we go. So this is it.
That's nice. I like that.
That's slick. I think it's kind of cool. It's a face-off circle. And I like the way it designs out, and it's pretty neat. And the one in black is over here, so I can bring that up too.
I'll take the one in black because black is thinning.
There you go.
I always take black because
You only do so much. Though.
it's impossible to keep white clean like that.
Yes.
You can never eat dinner in it. You can never really eat any meal with it. You can't. The white's very limiting in that way.
Russ, if we go to Duff's for some wings,
Oh, forget it. I mean,
that shirt is shot in about 5 seconds.
Right. You're not going to eat wings in a Hockey Buzzcast shirt, though. Come on. Now that would be terrible. All right. So here's the black one. Kind of cool.
I like it.
I like it. It's got like a superhero thing to it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's nice. So there we go. So $5 a month, you'll get one of these sent to you. Those of you giving me your addresses and such.
I think the guy you modeled it could have had a more athletic build, but otherwise it's fine.
That's him. Come on.
It's not me. It's definitely not me. This is just like a standard website guy.
Oh, so this is like a website mannequin.
That's like a t-shirt, t-shirt thing that just like you put any logo on type thing.
It's an internet android. That's what it is.
Oh, who is the guy? We need to know.
We'll never know. He's headless.
Yes, we will. This guy needs to either message Eck or let us know who you are.
Good luck with that. All right. Well, that's it. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. Go to patreon.com/hockey to support the web podcast. If you find any value in it, we really appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon. See you tomorrow.